Welcome to the Restaurant Growth Show podcast, where we talk about how merchants can use technology to grow their business. We've got a lot to talk about in this episode, but first, let's introduce our guests. First and always, we have Jose Albis with over 25 years in online marketing. Jose has successfully founded and operated companies in software and hospitality. Next, we have Alex Cook, whose experience in the hospitality industry spans 30 years, including 16 years selling restaurant point of sale solutions throughout North America. Lastly, who am I? My name is Gordon. I am your host. I have over 16 years in the food service sector with a decade in technology startups. This podcast is sponsored by Dynpricing, real-time restaurant profitability. Dynpricing uses AI to improve profitability for restaurants by dynamically updating menus across digital channels. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Good. Doing excellent.
Awesome. Well, it's a beautiful day in local Victoria, BC here. Do you guys have any outdoor plans? Alex, are you taking the boat out?
This weekend, I'll be taking the boat out, and I have plans to go for a cold water plunge with my partners here.
Yeah,
Am I allowed to call you partners? What do we call you now?
Yeah, I think partners is appropriate, I would say. So today's episode, we're talking about the history and the role of point of sale systems for restaurants. These systems have changed significantly over the years. I think Alex can talk about his first experience with POS systems even before he was selling them when he was working in restaurants. And I know that Jose has a lot of experience, discussing leveraging the POS technology and its role with data collection and what restaurateurs are doing with that data. That being said, why don't we start with Alex? And like I said, we've seen POS systems evolve from these simple cash registers to complex integrated management solutions. How, in your experience, has this transformation impacted the daily operations of restaurants? And in what ways do you think modern POS systems have become indispensable for operators today?
We had a quick chat about this offline before we came on, and I've got a fair amount of experience in the point of sale industry. There has been unbelievable changes very quickly when it comes to point of sale. I remember starting in the industry in 1999. I was selling Squirrel, which was the one of the top POS systems at the time, and it was all DOS based. I started in 1999. So we were experiencing Y2K, and planes are going to start falling out of the sky. And even before that, we were talking about cash registers at a time where they only had the ability to do one tax. And then when the government in Canada introduced GST, or a second tax, they had to create these new cash registers because they didn't have the ability to multiply them and divide them out. And this is kind of what's happened over the years. We've gone from analog cash registers to digital point of sale systems. We've moved from DOS into Windows and then into the cloud. And as we start to progress, we have these new partners and integrations that come in, and they can include, I remember when the payment processing first started, the debit was totally separate because it couldn't do the credit card and the debit through the terminal. So if you wanted to pay by a debit card, you still had to go through the PIN pad. So we kind of went through this transformation, and then we saw additions of gift card and loyalty software with an integration. Could be food and beverage inventory, labor software. One thing in common that all of these tools have, and right up till current day, where we integrate online ordering, we've got the ability to have integrations with third-party delivery apps so that everything is in one big ecosystem. It's really designed ultimately to help operators increase their profit line and manage their business. Mm-hmm. So it is the center of their ecosystem. What I take a look now with cloud-based systems and also the industry, what we have seen is that we've gone from these really complex point of sale systems. They're huge animals like Squirrel and Micros and Aloha. those are your traditional, more what we call legacy systems. And now we moved into what I think is much simpler point of sale system, because in a lot of cases, the restaurateur or even the restaurant groups don't necessarily have the manpower or the ability to manage a huge system like we saw before. In a lot of cases, footprints have gotten much smaller. We have fewer staff members, so we're relying on technology to perhaps, I don't want to say replace, but enhance the experience, the customer experience, but also help them recover some losses, or help them at a time where it's very difficult to find employees, like we've just seen over the last 2 years. So the point of sale system for restaurants, I mean, I've talked to restaurateurs, they say, that's it, I'm going back to cash and pen and paper. Reality, it just doesn't work, right? It's an impossible feat unless you got a food truck in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't happen anymore. So this is the way of the future, and I think everybody has pretty much embraced it. And now it's kind of interesting to see where we're going to go in the next, I want to say 2 or 3 years, because everything's advancing so quickly. I couldn't imagine what's going to be out there 5 years from now.
No kidding. Alex, do you think with this evolution, in your opinion, of POS systems, do you think that some of them may be trying to do too much, trying to be too many things to too many types of services and restaurants?
I think in some cases the large organizations, and again we take like a Squirrel or a Micros, they are either they're developing their own light system. So another version, I know Squirrel came out with a cloud-based version that's designed for smaller independent restaurants, because you're right, that traditional system is too much for the smaller or even some of the larger restaurant groups. They're also not as good or not as well designed for quick service restaurants. They're more for full service. We see that with some other big corporations where they've acquired another point of sale system just to make sure that they have all these different target markets covered. So yes, to answer your question,
Some of them are, yeah, I would agree as well. And I mean, I think that, Jose, with the rise of online ordering, with all of these delivery platforms, with real time inventory tracking, POS systems have had to adapt really quickly. From your perspective, which technological advancement has been the biggest game changer for POS systems in the restaurant industry, and why do you think that is?
Definitely POS in the cloud.
Cloud, right? Yes.
POS in the cloud means that the world can connect to the restaurant and the restaurant can connect to the world. Means that most services that they could have had to buy as a software, running it in the computer later, like all of that's gone, right? It's from counting to tracking the supply of their inventory, where it's sitting, managing and optimizing the usage of that supply, to when the inventory is low, to trigger a short distance delivery or supplier it's one of the newest things as well, where and one that I saw before I get there, they supply instant supply systems that are out there that are very new, that bargain through technology on big orders is something that it's not seen other than by the operator, who really needs to keep the supply at levels, and it just helps optimizing the operations so much, right?
So are you talking about something like a crowdsourced inventory bartering system? Is
correct? So it's systems like, won't say the name here, but if those that are part of that ecosystem, if they at any point they run out of onion, because for whatever reason happened, they would be able to organize through this service someone that literally will do like a third party go to Market and Yates, buy the amount of onion that they need, and then go deliver it to save the day, right?
So not just the purchasing, but actual delivery. That's wild.
Couldn't happen without the cloud, right?
No, yeah.
Cloud is the biggest transformation. The other one is that I saw, I met them recently, is that when you place big orders, right? They have it literally takes about 30 seconds, 1 minute the first time, 30 seconds once you become a customer, because what they do is that if you have an order that it's under 20,000 US or Canadian as usual, then you enter, you put some data, probably your credit card, boom, they go check your credit, and they finance your order, that you then can pay in quotes, right? You're like, oh my God, I need 70 pounds, I don't know the price, but whatever, 70 pounds of potato, and I'm running it, we won't make it by the end of the day. And then there's a discount that you place with supply, plug it into the financing. They don't even have to pay it right away. They can order it, and the order gets delivered.
Great technology in theory, but is this too much for an operator to kind of manage? Are all of these new services online just too much for one operator, or even a franchise? Are they able to manage all of these services?
Well, I think that the education part has always been the biggest challenge, right? But we've seen you over and over that once they get the system and how to do and what is the benefit and how to take advantage of it, we see them that they are like, oh my God, what would have done? I couldn't do without it, right? I couldn't do without it because now it's just part of my operations. It makes my life easier. And if they would have to take that away, I would have to go and try to get as many potatoes as possible from at a retail cost, right? Like it could be crazy, and then driving and going and stuff, and it just makes life easy. But each of those pieces of technology gets requires some education. But once they understand and they see the advantages, they realize that they are actually saving time, money, or making more money.
Yeah, absolutely. Shortening that, delivery cycle and, logistically, I'm just trying to wrap my head around how that would work. Do they have a delivery fleet on standby, or how does that work? Do you know?
It's like last mile delivery.
Right.
Similar to, I mean, except that Amazon has its own cars and people that are in the system who can, just work, and they get the card that says Prime, but they act almost independently. Similar that before that happened, there were companies that were doing that last mile delivery for Amazon in areas like
Right. Yeah.
like even Vancouver, right? Like it was just there. So that ecosystem then transformed into, hey, we want you exclusive. It's subcontractors, like companies that actually do this, and they're just plugging themselves into the Amazon system.
Incredible. Alex, what do you think of this technology?
I think it's because technology is moving so fast, it's definitely a disruptor in the industry. When you look at it from a restaurateur's perspective, especially a restaurant manager or someone up there, is that it gets challenging to stay on top of the new technology and then to implement it, because that all takes time away from really the job of running a restaurant, even though it's designed to enhance a restaurant. So restaurateurs have to be careful on how much new technology they take on and what technology they choose, right? So we saw that with the pandemic with online ordering. That was something that everybody quickly had to learn and adapt to, or it was do or die. And then we saw the advancement of online order with integrations and third-party aggregators and even ghost kitchens, et cetera. But I think it is challenging because you're constantly researching for the right product. And then once you make that decision, then you have to implement it and ensure that it's doing its job, which is to help run your restaurant more smoothly. And those days where we, I don't want to sound like an old guy, but those days where we knew what our job was and it was pretty consistent for many, many, many years as far as your ordering and doing your scheduling for your staff, and even calculating your sales at the end of the day. That has all changed so much in such a short period of time. But the younger generation, as they come up, they're already familiar with a lot of this technology, so it's not as, they're actually more excited to implement it because they want to be the people who are part of the change instead of adapting to somebody else's older standards.
Their tech stack has become bloated, and they've got tablets everywhere. And then, like you said, aggregators were introduced, and so they were reduced. But there's still, I think that there's still a long way to go in terms of determining what is the standard. And then we haven't even talked about, the service type and the cuisine type, and how that affects, say, a QSR as opposed to a fine dining. I think all of these operators are still really evolving and figuring out what works for them best. There's so much change still to come. I am, excited to see the new developments in, especially in artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies, just to really refine and not just boost profitability for restaurants, but actually make their lives easier.
I'm going to ask a question here. What do you look for as far as an experience when you go out, whether it's QSR, quick service, on the go, or casual fine dining or fine dining? What are you looking for in your experience when you go there as a consumer?
I actually like when I see that the manager is hanging out and greeting people. Like having someone that is like the host, like, someone welcomes you, we're going to see you and stuff like that. But I love to see the person in charge of the quality of what's happening. And
reading the room.
Exactly. And that gives me like a sense of I'm VIP, and that they are there to care about every detail of my experience. So that it's the highest level of what an experience could be, but that comfort, it gives comfort that everything else will be. And maybe I don't need much more than that in my case, because I feel guaranteed that if anything happens, I'm going to be taken care of.
I would go a step further, and when you look across the spectrum of the different types of restaurants, is what is the experience you're getting on a personal level? It could be a drive-through window. Are you getting someone who's attentive? Are they do they sound like they're happy to be there and happy to take care of you? Or does it sound very robotic and mundane? What's your experience that you're left with after you've left that place? And I still think that that's an area that the restaurant industry, they got to be careful not to forget the industry that they're in. And that's if they want customers to come back on a regular basis, there's ambiance, but there's the customer service level, and of course there's the product. So the product has to be consistent, and then at the end it's the value and the price. Of course, it also is going to dictate where somebody goes for a particular meal. But there's been so many changes in such a short period of time, and then the staffing issues that we see a lot of high turnover. The challenge has been to try to get that consistency and that high level of service, no matter what type of restaurant you're running, and be able to implement it and keep it implemented so it is a value of your company or a culture that you've created. And I love the technology. The question is, how do you incorporate that technology and be able to continue to give people the experience? Because it's a hospitality industry, and we have to remember the word hospitality, hospitable.
Yeah,
so
I
use
would agree.
use technology, but also make sure that you have systems in place to continue to elevate that level of customer service.
Correct. And I think that's where I was going, that technology always has like two sides of the coin, right? Where it can do really bad or really good. So my hope, my trust and why I'm passionate about technology in this industry is that it will help that owner, that manager, that whoever, to actually be more hospitable, because it doesn't have to be dealing with certain things that will distract it from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it takes education, but the idea is to free them so that experience is there. That's my trust in and passion what I do.
I have two perspectives, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, when I interact with a restaurant. Say I'm going out for dinner, pre-pandemic, I really like it to be greeted with a smile. You know, eye contact, greeted with a smile, a quick, hey, how are you? How's your day? How's your night? Something along those lines, that puts me at ease. But when I'm kind of a little bit rushed through, or, you know, not necessarily engaged with, just on a human level, I used to be a little bit miffed, right? Not a good start for me if I'm going out for dinner. Post-pandemic, my expectations have been lowered because I know what these restaurants have been through, and they have been to hell and back. And I go, you know what? They're probably a little bit short-staffed. They're probably trying to manage new employees in the back. They're trying to understand and learn new technology. I'm happy to be there at this point. You know, I want to get back to raising that level of expectation and engagement. But right now I have empathy for a busy restaurant that doesn't necessarily have everything in line or is as seamless as, say, it used to be necessarily. And I think that we're all working towards getting it back to a seamless, really enjoyable experience.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think our everybody's bar has and compassion and empathy with the situations that they're going through, because we can see it. There's not enough staff there, right, when that happens. So I think that we all went through that and lowered the expectations quite a bit.
And I think that the cloud POS system that's integrating all of these really great technologies is ultimately going to ease the pressure and allow for more attention to front of the house, to customers, to be more personable, and for them not to be too drawn back from you know, everything that's sort of getting in the way, operationally speaking. That's our time for today. It's great to have the band back together. Alex, Jose, it's great to see you guys. This has been the Restaurant Growth Show podcast, sponsored by Dynpricing. We will see you next week. Until then, have a wonderful week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.